Artie's been on 3 different times saying that you came on before the show began and said, Artie, go after me. Fair game, that you're a big Artie supporter, so you knew what you were getting into. So why don't you explain here, were you a little taken aback by Artie Lange's attack last night on your first show?
No, well, all true, first of all. I did tell him that in the green room, and I am a fan of his. And I went up and I said, hey, have some fun, take some shots at me, do whatever, I'm fair game, whatever you want. He goes, and he said, I was a fan of your dad's, I'm a fan of yours, and it was fine. And I think when he went out there is no doubt in my mind that he went out there and gave us exactly what he thought we wanted him to give us. And did it cross the line? There's no doubt. And I think there were some things that were said, 4 or 5 things that I wish weren't said. But I think he went out there with the intention of kind of mucking it up and trading barbs, and like your last caller said, I mean, there's some things that I fired back as best I could, but I can't jump down into that. And I think what it is it highlights the fact that it is live TV, and like your last caller said, it is on some level very exciting. I mean, it's not what I would choose to have happen on that show, and it part of it was unfortunate that was kind of the way everybody was left with the show after what I thought we did everything we wanted to do with Favre. I thought we did a good job at the middle part of the show. I thought Irvin was great, Ocho Cinco, and then we get to that, and that happened. And I think he just took it a hair too far, but I hold no ill will, and I'm glad on some levels that he was on the show.
All right, now I spoke to some HBO people today. They were down on him. They said, we know what we're getting into to a degree, but we never thought it would go that far.
Well, and I agree with that. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I knew we would. I wanted him to have fun, and I wanted him to get into it. And I think in the end, he took it too far, and I don't think he realized in the room, and I don't know if it translated on TV, that that was the feeling. I know Paul. I've known Paul Rudd since I was 18, and I just met Jason Sudeikis, and they were kind of sitting there like, what do we do? And it happened, and we kind of learned from it. And
were you taking it back, Joe, at that first thing right out of the gate?
I didn't take it personally at all. It's no different.
Were you blown away by it? Were you surprised?
Well, yeah, I was stunned because I'm not used to being on a show with that kind of language. I mean, that's not me. And I think when you're Artie or you're anybody on his show, and I do listen to the show, I think your senses to that kind of get dulled a little bit, and I think the line moves a little farther, and so my line's different. And I think most people's line is different, and I think he jumped over it, and we just move on. It's not the end of the world.
Now, he came on here a couple of times. I like Artie too. No, I don't know him from as well as you do, because I'm not a huge.
I never met him before last night.
Right, but you listen. See, I don't even listen that much, but I mean, I know Artie. He's a big sports fan, lives here, and I know him like you say you would know him, but you might know him from a personality standpoint more than I do.
Okay,
but
yeah.
he came on here today and he said, my job there, I wanted to outwit Joe Buck. Now, I said to myself, and I said to him, Artie, it's Joe's first show. Give Joe a break. Why do you feel you got to go on there and can't you try to be funny without upstaging Joe Buck? And Artie gave me the impression and told us that his job there in his eyes was to outwit Joe Buck. How about that?
Well, and I think he's being truthful in that. And I think maybe, me having that conversation before we went out there led him in that direction. Again, I think it was language-wise was not at all what I was looking for. In fact, there was another story that he had in the pre-interview that had to do with Tom Brady that I said, please, I'm begging you not to say it. And that's not what I want on the show. He said, no, it's on my new album, don't worry about it. I'll debut that on my new album. I know that's not right. So I felt, when I went out there, I felt like he knew that there were some boundaries, and whatever those boundaries were, they were different than mine. But all in all, it's something that people are talking about. Unfortunately, I think the end of it more so than the beginning of it, which I'm really proud of what we did with Favre, and I was thrilled that he came on, and And at the end of the hour, I think there was a net gain there. I really do.
Well, I mean, getting far on your first show in studio there, that's a heck of a spot. I couldn't agree with you more there. Now, did you think that Artie went out of his way to try to overpower your two buddies who were with him in that 8-minute segment?
Yeah, and that, I think if there's one real frustration I have, more than any of it, is that I didn't get a chance really to talk to Jason or Paul. And I know that Jason's busy. I really know Paul is because he flew in from a movie set to do that, and he was on for like a blink. And I just think he was kind of frozen out of the conversation because if he dipped his toe in the water, I think he knew he'd get bitten off too. And, so I had to sit there and take it, and that's fine. And I honest to God, Chris, I didn't take it personally.
Were you uncomfortable though, Joe?
Well, I'm uncomfortable because I don't like the language, and my family's there, my daughters are in the audience.
How old are your kids, Joe?
Well, my oldest is 13, and my youngest is about to turn 10. And I think they're 20 and 25 now.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You got a 13 and a 10-year-old kid. And they got Artie Lange there on with their daddy for their first show, and they got Artie with that kind of language.
Yeah, and I didn't think the language was going to happen like that.
What are you going to do?
That's the real disappointment.
Well, what are you going to do at the next dinner table when your 13-year-old says something and you say you can't say that? It says, hold on now, Daddy. You had Artie Lange on who said all this language. Why should I listen to you? What are you going to say then?
Well, we went back to the hotel last night, and I just preemptively washed both their mouths out with soap.
That would help. Yeah.
So you know what? I appreciate you sticking up for me, and I'm sure callers have called in good and bad, and Buck stinks or he handled it well, and whatever it is. But believe me, I'm not losing any sleep over it. And again, I really think he went out there with the intention that he was doing what we wanted him to do, and on some weird level. I can't blame him there. I blame him for the language and the vulgarity of it, and kind of dominating the segment. That's really more of the problem, is that he just dominated the segment, and I had two other people there that in a time crunch I'm trying to talk to, and I just couldn't.